One place where its current ran, they said the water was so fine that it tasted like brandy. In this small collection of streets, just outside the city's famous walls, you would find no airs nor graces, just good, honest people, of all ages, young and old. A place that had been through severe neglect, awful tragedies, and the most troubling times. But it refused to give in. This tiny housing estate thrived, despite of everything that was thrown at it.
The poverty of the Bronx, surrounded by neighbours that were like the City of Angels.
Okay folks, so we're here in the heart of Brandywell. This modern estate was built around 40 years ago in the early 80s, but there's been people living in this area for hundreds of years. This was an overflow area of the bog side as the Irish population grew after the plantation, and people came on here from Donegal looking for work, looking for food during the famine. The area is known for its generosity.
People from Brandywell, it's like people from anywhere. The Brandywell is a strong, resilient, working class community. And what I've always found from the people from Brandywell is they're just decent, genuine people.
Because it was such a small area, compared to Craighan and compared to the Bogside, and everybody knew each other, all the doors, everybody used to be in and out of each other's houses, that's the way it was then.
Anything we need, we look after together. It's only a stone throw away, a bit of help, you just call out for help and you're going to get it from a neighbour or two.
It's like a wee village, do you know what I mean? So everybody knows each other and we're all civil to each other and we know what way to take out to each other as well, so I love it.
There are rumours out there that the Brandywell is not a nice place to live. I can assure you that Brandywell is the place to be.
I was at a funeral and one of the things that struck me, there was literally every house or every family was represented at this funeral, and there's a bit of a joke ever since about a Brandywell funeral because they're decent people.
The people of the Brandywell are so renowned for their goodwill and generosity that this small housing estate may soon have its own saint. Sister Claire Crockett was tragically killed in an earthquake in 2016 whilst performing her duties in Ecuador. Since her death, her commitment to helping others and dedication to her faith has given her a worldwide recognition and following. So much so that there are now calls for her to be canonised.
She was a wee bit out there, our Claire, a bit mad, eccentric, dramatic all her life. Never to expect our Claire to become a nun, ever.
I don't know who was more shocked, Claire or us, that that was the path of life for her.
But I don't think anybody was fit for being a nun like our Claire was. One of the best, I think.
All the footage she saved her, every photo, you've never seen somebody as happy. They'd be doing what she's doing, she enjoyed every minute of it.
Sister Claire has acted as a huge inspiration to many since her passing, helping those in need, even in death.
It just doesn't come from there, it's literally America, Australia, everywhere. Stories of how Claire's helped them, how some people were really their last straw and started praying to Claire and how they've turned their lives around. I have no doubt whatsoever our Claire will become a saint. And I hope it's sooner rather than later. She definitely deserves it because of her love for everybody else and putting everybody else in front of herself. That's why the world loves her and fell in love with her.
Despite travelling the world, she always kept the Brandywell close to her heart.
Claire was the proudest person to be from the Brandywell. Loved coming to see her around the Brandywell every time she was back.
My mum used to say we're from Lower Bishop Street, but our Claire would say we're not, we're from the Brandywell. Oh, I proud as punch she was.
So we're standing here in the modern Brandywell estate, which would have been built in the late 70s and early 80s, but the old streets that were here in the past, the old terrace streets, were built by local businessmen. They housed the local workers in the factories and other low paid jobs. They couldn't afford to buy their houses, they rented. Well, unfortunately in the past there would have been a lot of poverty and deprivation in this area due to the economic conditions at the time.
Well, objectively, looking from the outside, you could see sort of the Derry Catholics were an oppressed group of people. They didn't behave like oppressed. I can't remember anybody going around with their head down.
Growing up in the Brandywell, I never really felt that we were hard done by, because anything that we had, we made the most of it.
People had nothing, but what they had, they gave.
You didn't know any better. The fact that you were very poor, you only became aware of that as you get older.
People had to be resilient. If you got a day's work, then you made that your priority. You got the day's work, which meant then that your family could eat.
You always think that it never rained. The summers were great. Everybody was happy. They were tough times. Coming from Brandywell, it was a tough. Life was tough for everybody that was there at that time. I don't think it's a coincidence that the troubles literally started in Derry, because Derry was a powder keg, and it was due to go off at some stage, and it eventually did.
Despite the people's willingness to put up with the poor conditions, it was known that the poverty that many faced was due to an unjust system where the largely Catholic areas of Derry were not treated equally.
Families in the Brandywell who were living in 2-bedroom houses, there was maybe 6 families with one home. It was only coming in through the late 60s and 68 through the civil rights movement that discrimination and legislation started to be changed.
And that was the moment when people, having been long suffering for a long time, in the end said, that's enough, we're not having it. The risen expectation of local young working class people, the clash between that and the reality that they were being offered, that became more and more acute. That exploded on the streets of Derry. That's where the troubles came from.
Although the protests had started peacefully, violence soon followed. The Brandywell and the rest of Northern Ireland plagued with decades of suffering. And although these times brought great sadness for everyone, the people found a way to persevere.
I think people of Brandywell survived because they hadn't got anything. They were fighting for something they never ever had, and I think that was just sheer equality.
Despite the Troubles, or any other dark moment in the Brandywell's history, sport was always a source of joy and escape, particularly football.
We built this city. We built Derry City on Brandy. Well, built this city. We built Derry City on Brandywell.
Sport has always been a part of the fabric of the Brandywell. I mean, it hosts Derry City Football Club.
Brandywell's a fortress. You get yourself ready, you go out, you meet your friends, have a few drinks, and you get the drums together, and away you go down to Brandywell. Whenever Derry's doing brilliant, the place is rocking.
You know, wanting to be from the Brandywell was wanting to play for Derry City. To be able to go there and knowing that your neighbours, your friends, everybody can watch you. Now, I'm not saying that there wasn't great players from other parts of the city, but, you know, I think that was a lot to do with as well, the fact that the Brandywell pitch was there.
It's not an accident that the Brandywell produced some of the greatest footballers Ireland has ever seen. Eddie Crossan, Jobby Crossan, Jim McLaughlin.
I think there was something like 10 or 12 international footballers came from an area of about a half a mile, you know, which is unheard of, like in Derry.
Derry City came back to senior soccer in the League of Ireland in 1985. It was an exciting time. For the first time, players from abroad came to the Brandywell, goal scorers like Owen De Gama and Alec Christie. But it was a young local man brought up in Southend Park behind the main stand here at the Brandywell who caught the imagination of the local fans. Séan Coyle exploded on the football scene here at the Brandywell on the 6th of November 1988, coming off the bench to score a hat-trick against Cove Ramblers. 100 goals would follow in the Derry City shirt, and he would go on to win FAI Cup medals in 3 separate decades for the Candy Stripes, a quite remarkable story.
I haven't lived in the Brandywell for 25 years, but still define myself as a Brandywell man, Southend Park. Even when I'm doing interviews and TV programmes and stuff like that, and it's the first thing I always feel as if I have to say, because growing up in a place like, you know, that defined me as a person more than anything is it's massive to me, and I still feel a great connection towards it.
That's there! Séan Coyle has put Derry City in front.
Séan Coyle sort of was as brilliant a footballer as Ireland has produced sort of in the last half century. You know, he's a Brandywell man. In fact, Liam Coyle and his dad, their house overlooked the Brandywell. You could actually see half the pitch if you stood in the bedroom window.
I remember going to the '89 Cup final in Dublin, and I was waiting for Felix to come and lift me at my mother's house in Southend Park, and the whole street was just out. The whole area was just out waiting on me, going down the street, and I'll never forget it. It was just covered in red and white, and everybody just clapping me going down the street in Felix's car, like, you know, as if I was somebody at One Direction or something, like, you know what I mean? It was amazing, and as I say, I think I genuinely I made people proud. The fact that one of their own, you know, went on to play for Derry City and happened to won a lot of trophies as well too, which was even better, and that support, it makes you feel as if you're still part of it, no matter what. You know, even though, as I say, I moved out a long time ago, I always made sure that people knew that, and I think people from the area were delighted that I never lost touch with who I was or where I was from, you know.
Another great footballer from the Brandywell was from just up the street from Liam on the Lonmore Road, Felix Healy. They were teammates, and Felix even scored the goal that sealed Derry's historic treble win in 1989. The treble win sent the city into a frenzy and made local heroes of the whole team.
The next question is, who put the ball in the cork net? Mr. Felix Healy!
What does it mean to be from the Brandywell? It's a place that I even like driving through. Sometimes if I'm going somewhere and I can drive through the Brandywell, it just evokes so many memories of me running from school back in the days when there were no cars, running down the Folly, running sometimes just to be different, running through Bluebell Hill Gardens instead of running up Brandywell Road. You can romanticise about where you grew up, but that's, I think, to a certain extent, that's within us all. As we get older and we've more time to reflect on what we were like when we were younger. But if somebody says, where are you from? I'm from the Brandywell.
For we only know that there's gonna be a show, and Derry City will be there.
For any young fella born in Derry who wants to play football, the Brandywell is your heart's achievement. And whatever you do after that's a bonus.
In recent times, there is one player from the Brandywell that has defined the club more than anyone else, Ryan McBride, who tragically passed away in 2017 at the age of just 27. He was brought up a stone's throw away from the stadium.
If you literally look out Ryan's bedroom window, you can see the stadium. So out his bedroom window, we'd have like a roof. He would go out there on the roof, no one like watch, and he'd be, oh, Derry's up 1-0 or Derry's up 2-0, you know. Always just loved watching them play. So Hank obviously gave him the ambition then they always want to play for Derry City.
It wasn't just Ryan's warrior-like performances on the pitch that made him stand out, but his kindness off it.
There was no kind of airs or graces about him. It was just football, work, and his family, really, his friends, and that was it.
He would never seem angry. He was always just that gentle giant that it was just cool and unassuming.
He never turned down anything. If somebody said, well, can you do a presentation? And I think he went the whole way out to somewhere at Newton Cunningham, and there was snow on the road, and he still drove out because he was all, I can't let them down. No, that was the type of him.
Since his passing, a famous quote of Ryan's has often been shared, underlining his love for his boyhood club. Despite offers from elsewhere, he never wanted to leave the Brandywell team.
He didn't want to go. That was the thing. And I mean, his quote, my dream was to play for Derry, and that happened. I think that's all Ryan wanted to do.
Due to his importance to the Brandywell and Derry City, the stadium has since been named in his honour, hopefully inspiring the future generations of the area.
Ryan been in the heart of the community, you know, and then giving the young kids the drive and been involved with the football club itself.
Partly the reason why we wanted the stadium to be named after him, so younger people could say, like, who was Ryan? And then they'd say, well, he literally is from the Brandywell. He played football on the streets of the Brandywell, obviously worked his way up to play for Derry City, and then obviously captained it. So I think even telling that story to younger people, it will give them a kind of no ambition and think, well, if he can do it, I can do it. Just an average fella from the Brandywell.
Look, he was a great fella, like, he can't really say anything bad about him.
I have always faith in the younger generation. And obviously, being from the Brandywell, I just think they're from good stock.
You've got the Long Tower Youth Club, which has been there over 60 years, second to none. The youth services and the young people that's coming out of that with skills, attributes, creativity.
They have massive potential in education and training now that maybe that we wouldn't have in the past. And why shouldn't the young people of the Brandywell have the opportunities that other people have?
Probably we're stereotyped as well as though being a deprived area and the poor community or as the poor cousins as such. So maybe it's been an upbringing within their families. They bring them up, to be proud and to be strong and to be resilient and be able to face things head on and defend yourself and be proud of your community and not define yourself as a postcode or what these stereotypes are, and that there's opportunities out there and you just need to go for them.
They do not need to be stigmatised by the area that they come from or the background that they come from. Our role within that as as a primary school and a nursery within the community is to instill that self-belief and self-confidence in our children from as young as 3, that they can be the best they can be, that they can achieve what they want to achieve.
It's about creating that sense of belonging and giving them that. That's what we do is we make them feel part of the community and as part of the youth centre.
See, ever since the first time I came on them doors, volunteers give me opportunity after opportunity. And see, to be honest with you, if they didn't give me as much opportunities, I wouldn't know where I'd be today.
It's like a cycle where the local young people we're employing is seeing the benefits and the opportunities being created here in the youth club, and then they're going to be our future leaders and the future centre managers and all that going forward and creating opportunities for their future generations in front of them.
There is a real sense of place and belonging and pride in their area, so that is coming through the generations and I just see it going from strength to strength.
I think the Wains in the Brandywell are the best Wains in Derry.
They are.
The Brandywell will exist in the future. The Bogside, the world will exist in the future. But for the Brandywell to become a thriving, vibrant community and build on what they've already have, we need opportunities for our young people.